Hi, Claire.
Hi, I am.
We should probably introduce ourselves first, who we are, what
Hmm.
children we've birthed, things like that. So I am Amy, and I have three boys. I have Hudson, who's 8, Ruben, who's 5, and Casey, who is 2. And I am 30 something. I've lost track.
So I am Claire, and I've got two little ones. I've got Harry, who is 5, so he was 5 in December, and Olivia, who's just turned 2.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
really, you're only sort of going into home ed now just with Harry, aren't you? The older one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're just in our first year, so it's yeah, crazy, but good.
What's led you up to this point, led you up to this decision?
Um, gonna be honest, like leading up to me having children, in my head, I was always like, they're never gonna go to school. Like, I don't want my kids to leave me and all of that. And it just, but I never in a million years thought that I would home educate my children. Like
Really?
yeah, completely. Like it was never a thing. I never actually thought that I would do it.
Even though
Um,
you thought that you didn't want them to go to school?
Yeah, completely. Like it was for me, it was just like I want my children at home with me all the time just because they're my children and that's it. But I never actually considered home education. Like it was, I just never thought it was a thing. Like wasn't something that I was aware of that was actually really happening. And,
That you were allowed.
until, yeah, absolutely. Like I was actually allowed to like school my children at home.
Mm.
Like, it just wasn't even a, um, something that I sort of like saw us as a family doing until it actually came to it. And I was like, we've got to start looking at schools for Harry. Like, it's that time, like, it's actually happening.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he'd already shown that he just wasn't happy um, in a school setting. So he'd asked to go to nursery. We sent him because his other friends were going. We sent him 2 days a week, and yeah, he just didn't. He just didn't sit right with him. And then he asked to go to preschool, so we sent him to the local one just down the road. Again, 2 days a week initially, then 3 days, and he just did not get on with it. And I was like, do you know what? Like, I need to really look into home education and what it actually entails and what I need to do
Yeah.
because my gut told me that school just was not a place for Harry. And yeah, for me, I just knew I had to look at it seriously and go, is this something as a family we could do?
But had you had any experience with homeschooling or home education before that? Like, how had you been educated? Just through the
Oh
system?
God, yeah, yeah, completely. Like I went to school and from start to finish and then went to college. That's the only way I know. I don't know any other way.
Yeah.
And I also didn't know anybody else that did that either. I home educate their children. I had nobody. I spoke to nobody about it, and until I started to sort of like get out there and speak to other people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So what was the actual decision maker for you? Just the fact that Harry didn't want to go and didn't get on well at nursery and preschool.
Yeah, I could just tell it just wasn't for him. Like some of the things that were going on and some of the things that the teachers were coming out and saying to me, oh, Harry wasn't getting on, didn't do too well today. He didn't like the change in activity. Okay, yeah, probably why, because that bell that tells them that they have to finish that activity, move on to something else. If he's enjoying it, he's not going to deal with that very well.
Yeah.
And I just knew that it just wasn't Harry's got a real love for the outdoors and for life really. He just loves exploring and you know playing football, digging up and climbing a tree, and all those sort of things. And so I sent him on a day that they did forest school,
Yeah.
and thinking that he would absolutely love it. And he used to just come home and be like, Mum, we had to stand with our bums against a fence and we wasn't allowed to use our loud voice. And the tools, I had to ask if I could use them, and I had to wait till the teacher came and was with me. That's, in my eyes, that just wasn't forest school. Like, that's a safe place for children to explore and have fun. And that just wasn't happening the way that I thought it would happen.
Yeah. So how long did he go to nursery and preschool for?
He started when he was 3 at nursery, and then he went to preschool at just before he was 4. So we did sort of, a good year and a half of giving it a go and seeing if it was something that was for him, and it just wasn't.
Wasn't. Yeah. I think you
Yeah,
just know, don't you, when it just doesn't feel right.
yeah, it didn't. It just didn't. The things that were just, Harry was changing, his behavior was changing, and I just knew that it wasn't for him more
Yeah.
than anything, and for us as a family, it was something that we really needed to sit down and discuss,
Yeah.
and see if it was possible. You know yourself, it has to be right for the family, not just for the child.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
And you'll try anything to make everybody happy and make sure that everybody's getting the best outcome for everybody involved.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. What
It,
was your first thoughts around home
um,
educating? And
so I was brought up in a way where school was pretty much the most important thing in my life. So it didn't matter what happened. I had to get good grades. I had to do well at school. I couldn't miss a day. I think I could probably count on two hands how many days I had off in my whole of my. And if it wasn't for holidays was different. But even if I was ill, I couldn't be off school. So when I had Hudson, as soon as he turned 2, he was at preschool. He
mm,
hated it. Like that. I mean, looking back now,
mm,
obviously you can look back with hindsight and things,
yeah,
you do things so differently, but I also was in a very different place mentally.
mm,
I was dealing with a lot of stuff that I didn't know I was dealing with that I had to then work through. And I think when you have your first child, that brings it all out.
yeah,
And that's one thing that I didn't anticipate when I had him, was how much soul searching and how much I had to self develop. And it took a lot out of me. And I think I needed that break in a way for him to be away from me for a bit. So, yeah, he went to preschool at 2. He stayed there until he was 4, all the way up until he was supposed to go to school. Then I did the school places. We'd been to an open evening at a local school, which was a local Steiner Waldorf school. So that's
yeah,
very alternative education. Um, and we put his name down because they said that there was years of wait list. So we thought, well, if we get it, we get it. If we don't, we don't. But Ash, his dad, obviously is very hands-on, practical, didn't do very well at school at all. Very practically minded, loves fixing things, and is very intelligent in that way. And we thought, well, Hudson's half him and half me. Yes, I was very academic, but he very much isn't. And Hudson was looking like he was more the outdoors, hands-on sort of personality. So we thought, oh, it'd be perfect for him. They don't start till they're 7. They do all this woodwork and gardening and practical stuff. And um, it came to the first week where they have those settling in days of mainstream school.
yeah,
And I'd filled out this application and I said, look, he needs a lot longer than most kids need to settle in. He won't, I'm going to have to stay there for longer than other parents are going to have to stay there because of how he is. All this stuff, knowing what this experience was going to be like. I got there. She obviously hadn't read any of his application form. It was just after COVID, so parents were literally
No.
lining up and having to drop their kids and leave. Well, I didn't do that.
Oh
I went in because
gosh.
I was like, I'm not traumatizing my child any more than I need to.
Yeah, yeah.
I went in. She then proceeded to say to him, "Oh, you don't need mummy to be here. You don't need her to do any of that for you." Like I was just taking his coat off and putting his bag on the hook, and she was like, "Oh, you don't need mummy to do any of that." And I was like, "Okay, um, let's see how this goes." And she was like, "You're gonna have to go. You really need to leave." And I came out there crying pretty much, and I was like, this is
No way.
good. This isn't good for any of us."
Oh
Um,
my
and then
gosh.
we had the phone call from the Steiner school saying, "Oh, you've got a place if he wants to come." So we were like, sure. But it was a really big decision to not go down to send that deregister letter to the mainstream school was still a really big decision, even though I was sending him to a
Absolutely.
different school,
Yeah.
because I had to put trust in this other type of education, and then that didn't work out. He went there for 2 years. He loved it. First few years, he didn't start formal education till he was going 7. Loved it up until he moved up into class 1, which would be year 2, which is when they start formal education, and
Yeah.
it all just sort of fell apart. The school didn't cater to his needs. The school failed a lot of children in that class. I think half of them have left now.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and it just didn't work out. And we just decided, look, we're paying for this service. It's a lot of money. We're not just going to take what an education that we could get in a mainstream school that would probably be better than what he's actually receiving at this school
Yeah.
and pay for it. So no thanks. And they were like, oh, they were doing all sorts, like sending kids out of the class to stand outside, threatening them with going to see the head teacher. They were writing their names on the blackboard with numbers against their names according to how many minutes they were going to lose of their
Oh
playtime,
my goodness. Oh
giving
my
them
goodness.
anxiety. And that's not what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be very holistic and lovely and all about the whole person and their feelings and their emotions. And it just didn't work out that way. And that's not against that type of education, because I
Yeah.
still believe in that type of education. It was just that particular experience at that particular time at that
Mm,
school. That's all that it
yeah.
was.
Absolutely.
And so, because of that circle that we were in, the type of people that send their kids to that school are the type that are sending them there because maybe they have to work and otherwise they would homeschool, or they are very alternatively minded. They're very open minded to home
Yeah.
education. And it was only because we'd met a group of other parents that were like, no, you can totally do this. This is what you need to do. This is the route we're going down. We're going to do it together. That we did that. Because if he'd have just gone to school in reception,
Yeah.
he would have just been in the system now, and I wouldn't have even thought twice about it, unless he'd have had some horrendous experience, obviously. But I think it was just the path, the trajectory that we went down. It just led us to that decision.
And is that the decision that you've kind of stuck with Reuben?
Yeah,
And
like he won't go
that's
now. I won't bother because now I've had to back myself up so much with research, and I've
yeah,
filled myself with so much knowledge of like, oh, actually, school isn't really a very nice place for kids to be, and it's not the right environment for learning, and it's not the best way for them to learn. So perhaps
yeah.
this might be a better route, and we can do it. So why not?
And if they asked, obviously, to go to school, is that something that or do you just think that they absolutely wouldn't? Because I know Harry's said about it a few times, and I've been like, oh, is school somewhere that you want to go? Do you want to go to school? He's like, no, never, never. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, okay. And I do feel the need to touch base with him because I'm trying to unschool me as
Mhm.
well as him. And I think because I'm so set in my ways, if that's kind of the only path that we knew, that was the path I expected to take. So I'm still now, trying to reassure myself that this path is okay to take, and it is okay to, be learning it as we're going through it and navigate through it and ask for help here, and how other people have done it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, really. It's
Oh yeah. I'm still doing that all the time, and I'm still
yeah,
listening to stuff to reassure myself and read things to reassure myself that no, this is okay. And then when they're fighting or we just have a bad day or something, I'm like, oh God. Ash is just like, just send him to school. Like, no. He doesn't mean it, obviously, but he's like, it's days like today where
yeah,
I'm like,
absolutely.
just go to school. But
Just for an hour.
yeah, yeah, just for a day. Just
Yeah,
because I think that's one of the hardest things. But they'd fight if they were at school. They would fight when they got home from school anyway. It's not that they are at home, it's just siblings. But
yeah,
we're having it on like an amplified
yeah,
scale.
absolutely. No, it's a massive learning curve for everyone, isn't it? It's finding that new route and
Mhm.
trusting in yourself, trusting in your mother and instincts, and going, actually, this is right for us.
Yeah, and I think it's more of a learning curve for us than it is for them because they don't know. They haven't been conditioned in the way that we have to
They
think
don't
that, oh,
know.
if you don't go to school, you're absolutely going to fuck your life up forever. Because that's how what was drilled into us.
Yeah,
And you're not never going to get a job. You're not going to be on the streets and all that stuff. But then you look at all the really successful people and they failed all of their high school or they dropped out or they didn't get any GCSEs or it's not.
I lied about my GCSEs to get into college. I lied about my GCSEs to get a job that I didn't want. Like,
And nothing bad's ever happened to you.
no, no,
Like that way. Yeah.
here I am just winging it.
Oh, I think we're all winging it, but they I don't know whether it's his age or what now, but we've been doing it a year with Hudson, obviously, and he's 8. But since he's turned 8, God, he just questions everything. I'm like, why are you telling me what to do? Why are you always bossing me around? Like, we're not bossing you around, just telling you to brush your teeth and go to bed because it's actually 9:30 at night. And me and Daddy want to actually go to bed. And if you want to keep your teeth, you need to brush them. So, but that's like that with everything at the moment. I don't know whether that's his age or whether it's just him exerting his independence.
Honestly, literally, you took the words out of my mouth because we had the same conversation with Harry last night. He came in and I said, "Have you brushed your teeth?" Yeah. Have you brushed your teeth? Yeah. Have you brushed your teeth? No. I said, okay. So he's like, I said, why lie? He's like, I can't be bothered. I went, no problem. I'll just let the dentist know in the morning.
Yeah.
No.
Did you have this idealistic expectation of what it was going to be like?
Yeah, we're going to get up in the morning, we're going to have breakfast, and we were going to get a school book out, and we are going to open it, we're going to put a pencil in our hand, and we're going to do our work, and then we're going to go enjoy our day.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. We rock up down the stairs at about anywhere between 7 and 9.
Yeah.
Um, and then we'll leisurely have breakfast. And I don't actually have expectations anymore because we just do life. And I absolutely love that. And, we'll get up and we'll have snuggles in bed as a family. And then we'll be like, oh, can you hear the rain? And, the cars going past that are rushing to work or rushing to school. And I just love it. And,
Yeah.
you know, after breakfast, I'm like, oh, what should we do today? And figuring out like the meets that are on and the plans and getting the books out and be like, well, actually, what do you want to do? And he's like, oh, can we do something on phonics, or can we do a bit of reading, or can you read me a story? Yeah, let's. It literally is winging it every single day. There is nothing that is set in stone. And it has probably taken us until this point to find a route that Harry actually enjoys. And it's really weird actually, because it is a route that is in school and it's the CGP books,
Yeah.
and he just enjoys them.
You saying that Harry is there going, Mummy, can we do phonics? That's like my children, if I get anything out for them that is remotely writing, or I mean, Ruben did do flashcards the other day, but that was only because they were a novelty. And anything, he just would never, Hudson especially, I don't know whether he's got proper aversion to anything written, anything
Yeah,
workbooks, anything that he has to write down. And yet, but just getting him to really do anything is really hard. I have to just trust, I just have to let him do life his own way and
yeah.
trust he's learning what he needs when he needs it. And he just asks a shitload of questions. And I have to deal with that.
And that's really good, and that is so lovely. Like, that's, I love that. And
But luckily, he can read, and I didn't
yeah,
have to do that because school did take care of that bit. So, and he can write pretty well. Like he spells pretty good. And when he wants to, he'll write stuff down, or he'll chat in, like put his little coding into Minecraft or into Fortnite or whatever. And he does spell pretty well. And he wrote a note to his friends. He goes to youth club on a Friday, and he wrote this note that he had to take to his friends. And
oh,
he'd written like, I am currently at this level on Battle Royale, and
oh.
I defeated these people. And I'm like, you spell currently and defeated. So
But they learn so naturally on
of
their
course,
own that they just learn. They have this ability. The brain just has this kind of like a switch and goes, actually, I'm gonna learn,
yeah,
but they'll learn in their own way.
yeah,
And
exactly.
that's how nice is that? No pressure, and it's just happened naturally. And
Yeah,
Harry has got like that little bit of, like, he's really eager to learn, but he does get frustrated quite quickly. So he doesn't like things that's like, really overpowering in front of him. And the CGP books, they have kind of, it's quite a nice way of flowing through things, which he seems to be enjoying, and that's great.
yeah.
This definitely might not be the way that Olivia enjoys to learn, or I'm not expecting the same path with her that I have with Harry.
Mm,
But I just think that they're all on their own sort of like journey. They're figuring it out life themselves, and I'm not putting any pressure on. Yeah, okay. There's part of me that's like, okay, do I need to follow a curriculum? Do I need to, make sure that he's learning in a particular way? What is he supposed to be doing right now? And that for me is quite an, I don't know about yourself, but quite a roller coaster of emotions to go, am I doing
enough.
the right thing? Yeah, am I enough? Am I giving him the resources, the knowledge that he needs to be learning right now?
Oh,
And it's just that constant battle, isn't it, with yourself to go, am I doing, yeah, like you say, enough?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Probably every day. I go through that every day. How did your friends and family react when you told them?
Well, so I kind of, when I was telling them, I kind of said it really gently to see what the feelers were, because again, it's not something in my family that would ever be discussed.
Yeah.
It was never, it was never like an option. It was always just assumed that Harry would go to school,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the only way that it was going to happen. So I kind of like put it into a bit of a discussion going down the park one day, and I was like, oh, well, we might homeschool. And mum was like, I think it's cruel. And I was like,
Cruel.
Right, cruel. Okay. So I knew immediately where that conversation was going to go. I
Yeah.
just knew. And then the conversation with my dad was sort of that he doesn't agree with it. He's not gonna say that yes, it's the right thing to be doing, because he doesn't. He thinks that children should go to school, they should have a formal learning, they need the socializing side of things and all of that.
Yeah.
So I immediately, it was, you know, it was never going to be a positive sort of like discussion. But the what really matters for me is that what was going on in our family, and that it was, you know, Stav is in, he's completely on board with it. He
Yeah.
didn't go to school till he was 5. Like he didn't even go to a nursery or nothing. He didn't go to school till he was 5.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the norm for him. um but he's fully on board with it,
Yeah.
and I think that's what really matters. And he's, you know, so supportive of it. And yeah, it's just, what about you? What happened? What was the feelings around it with your family and your
Uh,
friends? What was their reaction?
my friends didn't bat an eyelid. A lot of my friends are either very supportive, have a very small friendship circle, so they're either
Yeah,
extremely supportive, wouldn't do it themselves, but are like, yeah, you go for it. Um, or they had alternative education themselves. So one of them actually was like, my cousin was actually brought out of school when he was 12 to become professional motocross rider. My our one of our mutual friends is he was brought out of school also at 12 and had a home tutor and just things like that. So I think a lot of people, friends wise, are a lot more open minded to it now, especially the fact that there is this seeming silent revolution against the education system, if you like.
yeah,
Family, like I said, I was brought up that school was extremely important. So that discussion has never actually happened officially. Um, it's just like, I say, what are you doing? Are you not? Is he not going back to school then? It's like, no, we're just gonna see how it goes for a bit. That's what I said, and then he's just not gone back, and they've had the they've had their moments where they've said certain things to me of like, well, we're just worried about what he's missing out on, and like, he needs to be
yeah,
around kids his own age. He really needs to be around kids his own age and stuff like that. But then I just, I'm at the point now. At the first, it really bothered me,
yeah,
but I'm at the point now where I'm just like, oh, I really don't care what you think, because I know that this is right for us. But it took me a long time to get to that point, and a lot of research and reading and backing myself up and knowing in
yeah,
my own heart and mind, no, this is a good thing to do and this is the right thing to do. So none of my family would be, not my immediate family anyway, they wouldn't
mm,
be like supportive of it. Um, my wider family, half of them would be extremely supportive because, like I said, my cousin they brought him out at 12 anyway. And the other half, I'm not so sure. They're just a different generation, I think.
yeah. It is,
And
really.
it's harder for them to get their head around it, I think. Whereas for us, I think we're that bridge between that generation and the next generation that is a bit more open to alternative routes and not just listening to what the government says, because we know that that doesn't necessarily work out very well.
Yeah, it's just about as well being. Stav actually said it the other day, and he was talking about that. Even though he's that little bit older, that he's just open-minded.
Yeah,
He's just open-minded that there is other ways to do some things, and you don't have to always follow the grain.
yeah,
And as long as you're open-minded to just finding out
yeah,
or learning about it, then why not?
yeah, yeah.
And especially with home educating, there's not one way of doing it, and
No,
not one way is going to suit everybody.
no. I don't think that I have met a person that does it the same way as
Yeah,
anybody else.
absolutely.
And
Couldn't agree, yeah,
that's
couldn't
the
agree
great
more.
thing about it. And then we go to these things like on Friday where we had that massive turnout of like 30
Yeah,
families, and there's all these kids that are just there's one group of them all playing football, there's another group of them playing like feeding goats, there's another group of them that are playing on the playground. They all just find their own people, and it doesn't matter about their age, and it doesn't matter about their into or their trending groups, or
yeah,
it's just it's like you go to those things and you're like, this is what it's about. This is what I want. This is how I pictured it. And then you come home and they start fighting over a video game. But that's balance. I definitely feel very different now to how I did when we first started.
mm,
I absolutely petrified when we first started, just constantly worrying that I was going to mess them up. What am I doing? He's not going to have any friends. And I was desperately, desperately searching for friends for him to prove, like, look, we are doing something. We've filled out a sheet in a workbook and we've met people. And but now it's a lot less pressure. I'm just like, oh, so what if we didn't go out today? So what if we didn't really do anything today? You still did. When you really break the whole day down and you see how many questions they asked you and how many mini experiments they did in their own world, in their own way,
yeah.
even if it is just like smashing two cars together or three cars together and seeing what happens. Or how do you feel now compared to when you first started?
Do you know, the biggest weight was lifted off my shoulders when we made the decision.
Mm.
Sending that email and going, I'm deregistering my son, I'm going to home educate. It was as if like my thoughts were being spoken and now it was okay. It was out in the open and we'd made a decision.
Oh.
And now it's just, don't get me wrong, I still question myself every single day, you
Mm.
know, and, but it's just, I just feel so good about it. I just feel that we made the right decision for Harry and for us.
Yeah.
And
How are you so confident in that decision? How are you so confident? How have you got to the point where you just know that it's the right thing?
it's my gut. It literally is
Yeah.
my gut that's just telling me it's the right thing. And I can't even explain to you, like,
There's no logical reason.
no, absolutely. There's nothing here that's going, Claire, you are following the right path. Like, what you are doing is the right thing. Who
Yeah.
knows? Like, who know? I have no clue. Like, I'm completely winging this. I have
Yeah.
I have no strategy. I have no book that I'm following that says this is what you need to do today. Is Harry achieving this? Just I'm just going with the flow.
Yeah.
And I just know that for us at the moment, it's the right decision. And I think that's all that matters. You
Yeah.
know,
I couldn't
it's
agree more.
yeah, we've got the support network, we've got friends, we've met the most fantastic friends, obviously.
Mm.
And the kids are fantastic. They have so much fun. He has a better social life than me, and I went to school.
I know.
And
Oh
you know,
yeah.
what does that say? It's, because I think that for me was a big thing going into this. Is he going to be able to socialize? Is he going to have friends? Is he going to have like good connections? And the answer to that is absolutely he is.
Yeah.
And it's my job as a mum to make sure that our days are filled with meets and where are people going and like what's going on in the area, because it's so important to do that, and that's what we love.
Yeah. I I can't remember where I read it or saw it or anything, but I remember reading that we should act more like their life coach or their life mentor than we should their educator. And that made me rethink it a little bit, because it's like we're just walking alongside them going, oh, there's this opportunity if you want to take it. And here's another opportunity if you want to
Yeah,
take it. And here's another opportunity if you want to take it. And I've just noticed Hudson saying yes to a lot. Well, he doesn't say yes, he says maybe, and that's his yes. But
yeah,
whereas before he was very closed off to everything and anything. And it's only now that he started going, okay. And he it's so much more extroverted and self-confident and less anxious in himself. And that is evidence enough, I think, for me. I don't care whether he fills in a workbook or whether he can. I mean, he comes to me and just randomly, he's like, what is a billion take away 1 million? I'm like, is a rillion a number? No. Then Ruben's like, Mommy, what happens if I wake up and I have an axe in my head, but it doesn't go into my brain? I'm not. I don't know. You will hurt. And also, no, a rillion is not a
imagination.
number.
Oh
And
my
then Casey's, I
goodness.
want to watch Blippy. And also, I'm hungry. And then he helps himself to Nutella out the jar.
Of course, what else
That's
would you
what I
help
find
yourself
him.
for?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he's the third child, so he has to basically fend for himself. So he's nailed that bit.
Oh God, Olivia's definitely the last.
And that's the closing thought.
Absolutely. Oh God.
Thanks for thanks for sharing all of that very insightful, interesting backstory to what's got you to where you are today and how you got started and stuff like that. It's been really interesting, and I've enjoyed hearing all about your stories. And I hope that it
Yeah.
resonates with some people who might be thinking about taking that plunge, because it's a big deal. It's a big decision to make.
Oh, it's
So
huge.
to
It's
know
huge.
that,
But
yeah, to know that even us who are in it and doing it, we still felt that, and we still feel those ups and downs and that insecurity and that worry
yeah,
is hopefully reassuring. No matter who you are, you can do it
together we can do it. We may have a
together.
different path, but we can do it.
Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to the next one. And
Can't wait. No, thank you.